Brother, you know, in this channel, we always talk about some of the craziest stuff in the continent. Yes, Africa, brother. We talk about Africa in this channel. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Well, Mali, this country right here, has done some crazy stuff. They have cancelled French teaching in school. Some of the crazy stuff ever. So the Ministry of Education in Mali has cancelled the history of France being provided in Mali. So in other words, many of the African countries that were colonized by the French still teach history of France in class. So the specific history is Revolution of France. France Révolution, Révolution Française, the revolution in France. This is some story that happened in 1789 where France was fighting for its freedom. So basically, the story goes along the line that in France there were many classes, like the rich people dominated over the poor. You know, the poor people suffered, they were misled, they were mistreated. You know, like I always say, freedom is not acquired for free. You have to fight for freedom. And this is not new, because back in time, just imagine, in 1789, French people were fighting for their freedom. Against who? Against their own government. There was no such thing as a really government. There was a monarchy. So there was a king, or let me say, supreme whoever, dominating over everybody, and under him there was the church and other people like peasants and people that had nothing, meant absolutely nothing. They were unalived for nothing, for looking at the boss's woman's breast, some crazy stuff like that. And these are the things that are being taught in Africa. Most African countries that speak French, they are taught, it's compulsory in school to learn about Révolution Française in 1789. Well, Mali said enough, none of that, finish. Congratulations to Mali. Pick up my coffee. Pick up my coffee, brother. That's what it is. Isn't that how we want to see it? I mean, brother, some people will say to you, you guys don't like France. It has nothing to do with not liking France. Like, which country out there want to be teachings and history of another country, especially a colonizer? Would France be happy that in France they're teaching history about Germany, since Germany took over France during World War II? No. You want to talk about French, right? It's the same thing in Africa. The Ministry of National Education of Mali has decided to suspend teaching of lessons of French Revolution in 1789. Big up coffee again. This measure applies to all 9th grade secondary classes and must be implemented immediately. So the Ministry of Education has said clearly to the national schools, from now on, the 9th grades of secondary school, I know it's a bit confusing because all grades are not equal. You know, in America, grades are different. In Europe, they're different. In Africa, they're different. So just put it that way. 9th grade secondary. No more teaching French Revolutionary studies. Enough. Finish. Basically, if you violate this order, your school will be penalized. Okay, for violation, you'll be sanctioned. Doesn't make sense. Is this dictatorship? I'm asking. Is it dictatorship to ask schools in your country to free themselves from the colonizer mind? I'm just asking. Is there maybe nothing wrong with learning the history of the colonizer? Or do you think Africa is too young to be learning stories of the colonizer again? Or maybe you feel it's about time Africa actually start learning histories of Africa, if not of the country, of many other countries in Africa. Are there no other revolution in Africa Malians could be learning from, but learning from the French people that colonized, beat them, enslaved them and stuff? I'm just asking. Now, sanctions. We were saying about sanctions. The ministry emphasizes that any breach of this directive could lead to disciplinary action. So disciplinary action to the school that tries to breach this, because black people they're always trying to please Europeans. Yes, you tell them some things, don't do this anymore, but some black dude somewhere there trying to please his white friend will say, no, in our school we still give it. You see that a lot. You see that a lot. So what if they're suggesting as an alternative? Well, you're asking yourself a question to know, why have they suspended this program, this France Révolution of the 1789 in schools in Mali? Well, the government has not given an official statement about that, but we can clearly see this is about historical event. You know, this is about sovereignty. You can't be teaching your children the history of the neighbor's house, especially not if the neighbor beat you up back in the past. Are you telling your children a story about how brave the neighbor is? The neighbor beat you up and he took your first wife? I mean, she just left because she wanted to go. She was just a slut. But you're teaching your children that your neighbor took your first wife and he beat you up, and you're telling your children how strong the neighbor is? No, you don't do that. You don't do that. Matter of fact, history is always told by the winner, right? People that win wars are the ones that tell history. Most of the histories we know today are lies. They've told you Africa had nothing, knows nothing, no science. They lived in the dark. No languages. It's a lie. They say Africans didn't write. It's a lie. You see the writings of Ethiopians, right? It's a proof of Africans have done many things. Now, why do you see Ethiopian writing? Because Ethiopia is one of the only countries in Africa never to be colonized. That's why you can see, yes, Ethiopia have their own writing and they have their own alphabet. They have their own calendar that is not exactly what you guys see. Ethiopians have that. Now, how do we know this? Because again, Ethiopia was not colonized. Because Ethiopia was not colonized, they couldn't destroy history. It's there in your face. And Ethiopia stood very strong. They fought against the Italians. They beat them bad. Bad. Now, Ethiopians don't play. They don't cut their hair. The warriors didn't cut their hair. They believe that the hair was an extension of the central nervous system, and it allows you to pick up on vibration. That's what they believe. The hair will allow you to pick up in the same way your body hair stands or lifts up, however you say it, when you're scared or you're in anxiety or you're in danger. It's the same way they feel like your hair can identify danger from miles away. Now, they couldn't delete Ethiopia's story because they didn't colonize it. But what they did for the rest of Africa will shock you. They deleted languages, history. They deleted many, many things. Like I said earlier, history is written by the victor. The victor tells the story. The lion always tells the story of a victor. Okay, never the gazelle tells the story. Never the gazelle. But now we have an opportunity to change things around. Some of the countries also did that in the past. Let's try to find out which country in the past changed back their history. They took over their schooling system to teach their children the right history. Haiti, okay? Haiti is this country right here. Haiti did some educational reform to decolonize school curricula, notably by removing and rewriting chapters that glorify French history. Now, Haiti was also controlled by France for many, many years. Matter of fact, French people went to Africa. They took Africans, some in Nigeria, Benin, Congo, they took them to Haiti to go work the field and sugarcane. They mistreated them really, 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 really bad. Now, what happened there was all the black people came together. They did a prayer. They did a voodoo prayer. I know some of you go like, oh, voodoo is witchcraft. Well, you're just not informed, okay? It's their belief. They did voodoo prayer, then they went to war against the white man because they were being mistreated bad. They went to war against the white man many, many years ago, okay? In 1804, they went to war against French people and they destroyed the French army in that island. Look at Haiti. This is the island. They destroyed the French. The French were buckled until they got reinforcement coming from Britain. That's when they say to Haiti, we are here with our big ships. We can bomb you. If we don't surrender, we will destroy the island. That is when they went with an agreement with Haiti saying you need to pay us money for losing slaves. Imagine having to pay for freeing yourself to the slave master. That's what they did for many, 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 many years, hundreds of years paying for this date. And as a punishment, what they did, the rest of Western nations refused to allow Haiti to enter the system. Let me remind you here. 1804, Haiti was the first black country in the world to be free. First in the world. 1804. In Africa, it's in the 1960s and stuff. Even South Africa in 1994. Haiti was in 1804. They were already free. But they couldn't grow and progress because white people say we're not going to allow you into the market. No, we can't do that. Because if we allow you into the market, what's going to happen is you're going to encourage other black people to revolt. Okay? Haiti has done the change. Algeria, this country right here, they were colonized by the French, beaten up badly. Matter of fact, after the Second World War, France wanted to acquire the atomic bomb of their own. America and Britain refused. They said, we're not giving you the technology. We can protect you with the atomic bomb we had. What did France do? They hired some specialists and stuff. They went to Algeria to do the testing of the atomic bomb. They didn't do the testing in France. They did the testing in Algeria, in the land. Matter of fact, after Algeria was free, after they unalived so many people, raped women and stuff, the Algerian government asked France, please provide us with the list. We want to see the map of where you did the testing. Because testing of the atomic bomb leaves residue of uranium, which is very dangerous. Radiation that destroyed lives. The French government refused to give them a map of where exactly they did the test. Okay, Algeria has also done that. Algeria has gradually removed narrative that valorized French colonization from school programs. Putting their own history of liberation, of local resistance, because they fought hard against the French people. Brazil has done the same with the Portuguese. They've done tremendous work. China, right here, you can see China. China has done the same too. Yes, fellas, if you think only African people were colonized, China have gone through the most. Okay? Many, many years ago, there was the Opium War. Have you ever heard of the Opium War? Opium is the drug, okay? So what basically happened is British people went to China selling opium to the Chinese people. Okay, they wanted the Chinese tea in return, and many of the Chinese became very addicted to the opium, and they were imported it, just like bananas. Now, the Chinese government back in time, or the authorities say, you know what, our people are going berserk. We have to stop this. They told the British to stop bringing the drug into the country. And guess what happened? British people got very angry and they came to the war. That was in 1835 to 1842. They started a war against China to force them to do drugs. Now they arrest the Nigerian brothers. They say they're doing drugs. I mean, this is crazy. Who's want to come on? Who learned from who? This is crazy. Like, you took the opium drugs to the Chinese people. You forced them the opium. Chinese people said we don't want it. You started a war. You unalive many Chinese people. Now my brother Onugu want to bring just small in London. You have a problem with that? Come on, man. That's not fair. How fair, man? How fair? Heaven. Now the second opium war also existed. In 1856 from 1860, there was the second opium war. The Chinese trying to stand up again, and in that time the UK didn't fight by themselves. They received support from who? From France. France supported the UK to force drugs on Chinese. My brother, let these people not teach you no lessons about morality. That's what it is. The government itself has not suggested any alternative. Now, alternatively, what can Mali teach people if they remove from this program? There are many things we learn in school that are not useful for us today. We know that. Some of the calculus and what do you use that stuff for? Why can't they teach you financial intelligence? Learning how to do finance. Why they don't teach you about money? Why they teach you stuff that you're never going to use, like Roma? Why do you want to know about Roma? I'm not saying you shouldn't learn about Roma or Greek, whatever, but that's for specific people, not for everyday people. For our fighters, our mental fighters should learn about Roma, know their history, but not for you. You working in the office, you should be providing bread. How do you provide bread with Roma? Alternatively, what can the Malians learn? There are many stories to learn, okay? Mali can learn about the Walulu Empire, for instance, okay? The Walulu Empire, Touré resistance, that's West African resistance, from 1882 to 1898. Why is this relevant? The Walulu is relevant because it's a powerful story of resistance. It's a powerful story of resistance of West Africa. It's relevant to the Malians because they are West Africans. Now, there's also the story of the Maji Maji. That's number 2. Maji Maji rebellion. That was the rebellion in Tanzania. You see Tanzania on the map? The Tanzanian people fought against the Germans. Okay, that was in 1905 to 1907 because the Germans were trying to take advantage. They came to Africa acting like they were friendly, and the Tanzanians said, you can come, we can give you some of the lands, we can give you, some food, maybe one of our cousins or female cousins, so you can have a good time. Well, brother, same thing, later on they say, okay, you guys, you're gonna come and work the field. They forced Tanzanians to work the field for them, not for the Tanzanians, for them, so they can export the food. They beat them up, stranded them. The Tanzanians had enough. They said, no, we're not going to do this anymore. They went and did the prayer. Tanzanians did the prayer, the Maji Maji people. Some of them jumped into a river. They blessed the river. They went to war against Muzungu. Okay? That's a relevant story. A multi-ethnic uprising against German domination. So all ethnicities in Tanzania came together like one people. That's what I'm saying to you. Countries are the biggest lies. They lie to you about the country. Your brothers are people that fight next to you. All these ethnic groups came together fighting against Muzungu. Can't the Malians learn about this? This is relevant to all African countries. How about we learn about Africa? I mean, the more we know more about Europeans than we know about other Africans. That's why we have difficulties mingling with one another and accepting each other. We see each other as foreigners. We see white people on TV every single day. They tell you stories, but you know nothing about the neighbor. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. Do you think age is a factor when it comes to wisdom? Because a lot of people, especially in Africa, like to associate wisdom with age. Like you would expect somebody that's older to be wise. Somebody that's been there. Because that's what we expect. When you see somebody older, you expect them to know, to have answers to things, to guide you in a positive, especially if you think they've been there. Have you ever experienced somebody older that is less respectful than what you expected? I mean, you look at them, you go like, did he just say that? Or did he just react in a way that I've witnessed? I didn't expect that from, not from him, from anybody else, but have you ever seen that before? I don't know why, but my personal experience, I think with time, I think my perspective has changed. I used to think back in time that, people have to be older to experience things, because obviously you think when somebody's got a certain age, he must have experienced a number of things therefore have pulled some beautiful conclusions in life and know how to guide themselves. But that perspective has drastically changed for me, because you can see today people that are 54 years old, 57 years old, 60 years old, absolute stupid. And you can see somebody at 24 years old, 25, that looks wise and conducting themselves in a way that is very louable. Fellas, Burkina Faso. This is the country. You can see on the map. Beautiful place, lovely people. Ibrahim Traoré. How do you feel when I say Ibrahim Traoré? I know you feel fuzzy already. You feel good because you know his name is associated for most cases with positive news. Yes, this is not different. Ibrahim Traoré is set to build 55 hospitals, okay, in his country, my brother. 55 brand new hospitals, 55 municipal medical centers, and 5 intensive care units will be built in several localities across the country. Congratulations! Yeah, congratulations. Number one is the fact that it's going to be built all over the country, meaning in everywhere in the country, not just in his municipality. I'll explain to you. In Africa, you get provinces, countries. You have countries. Inside countries, you have provinces. In most cases, each province represents a tribe. In most cases, if not a tribe, it could be multiple tribes. But it's a specific group of tribes per province, sometimes. Now, in Africa, in most cases, when the president is building something that's interesting, such as an hospital, road, infrastructure, schools, usually they do it in their province of birth because they're trying to promote their own province. So even though we've become countries in Africa, presidents tend to lean toward their own province to build when it comes to investment. They'll make sure their province is the best big school or the best university, the best road, the best buildings. And no other province looks like their province. Now, this man, Ibrahim Traoré, doesn't care about that. He said it very clearly. I'm a soldier.
I am not a politician and I don't beat around the bush. I am a soldier and I prefer to tell you the truth.
I'm a soldier. I'm here to do things the right way. I don't think like you. He's trying to build everywhere in a country. Congratulations. I mean, in many African countries, you don't even know where the tax money goes. You don't even feel like paying tax. And that's the reason why many Africans don't like to pay tax. Because you don't see where the tax money goes. I mean, there's a president who spends like $65,000 a night on a place. Just imagine traveling to a European country and pay $65,000 to $75,000 a night. Whilst you have people in a country who are getting paid less than $100. You have soldiers getting paid less than $100 a month, whilst you're spending $65,000 to $75,000 a night in a hotel, you and your wife and your team. Does that even make sense? That's why in many African countries, people don't like paying tax. They're going to pay tax because they are cornered, because they have to. They don't see. It's only few countries. I'm not naming countries here. There's only few countries where you have to pay tax. It's imperative. And you actually see where the tax money goes. Very few African countries. The roads are good. And this is not South Africa. I'm putting South Africa aside. The roads are good. The schools are free of charge. So you can send your children to schools. They study for free. Hospitals have insurance for everybody. You can actually go to hospital. You don't have to pay. There's a level of lifestyle that you are getting from paying tax. So people feel like they have to contribute. In some other places, people don't want to pay tax because when you pay tax, you don't even know where the money goes. It's the president's family that's getting richer and richer and richer. They have parties in places. They go to different countries. They buy houses and stuff. Now, Burkina Faso is not about that life. Everything is coming straight. Ibrahim Traoré, this man right here. 36 years old, turning 37. A good-looking man. Big, strong. Great mind. That's why I said to you, I don't think age has anything to do with wisdom. Because most men at his age are probably looking to a way to enrich themselves. Especially in Africa, when you become president, through arms and weapons. Who's going to stop you if you wanted to be a multi-millionaire? No one is going to stop you. Who can stop him? No one can stop him. But it's not about that life. He doesn't have a big, truck. Like American says, big truck. I'm a big truck. Why do you call it truck though? Why do you call these big cars trucks? We call it car. The truck is the big one. That's how we call it. The big one, we call it truck. But the SUVs and the, hatchbacks, and we don't call them truck. Anyway, why doesn't he buy those big SUVs? He's just driving a normal car. As a normal dude, he's got like only 2 bodyguards, because this is the type of man that Africa needs. Okay? 55 new medical center to profit the humans, to help people. Ibrahim Traoré is doing a tremendous work, and I think we need to talk about this guy. Ibrahim Traoré, a few months ago, stopped exportation of tomatoes in the country to build a plant in the country. Why? Because, Burkina Faso produces a lot of tomato. That's what they did in most cases. They will produce the tomato, send it to France. Look at the distance from Burkina Faso to France. And it is in France where it's going to be developed and processed. And France will put them into tins and cans and send them back to Africa to be sold to Africans. Just imagine, Africa brings out the tomatoes. The tomatoes have to go all the way to France to be processed in the machine and sent back to Africa to be sold at a much higher price. You say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? He built 3 tomato plants in Burkina Faso, allowing the people in Burkina Faso to have jobs. People in Burkina Faso to learn how to do the processing. People in Burkina Faso to buy tomato at a very cheap price.
This is part of the industrialization process. We can only be proud of our approach, which is understood by the people. The message for the Burkinabe is to have confidence, because this is concrete proof. And I invite the Burkinabe to continue to subscribe to the popular shareholding program. Endogenous development is a doctrine. We can only develop through ourselves.
That's what you need as a president. President of Burkina Faso said we're not going to get money from World Bank and IMF. World Bank and IMF, these ones, they are the ones that give money to Africans. They lend you money for your project. Let's say you want to build a road, you want to build a school, hospitals. You can go ask World Bank or IMF or some other entities. They were going to give you money with a big interest that you have to repay. Besides the big interest, they're going to dictate on how you're going to spend the money. They're going to dictate on who you're going to use as a company to build your school. They're going to dictate on how the long-term processes. Now, Ibrahim Traoré said, we don't want this money. The bottom line is they use this money, this fund, to control Africans. For them to give you the money, you have to be behaving in a way that they want you to behave. Let's say they want your country to accept this and that policy. If your country is against it, you're not going to get money from World Bank or IMF. Let's say they say you need to vote against Russia. If your country doesn't vote against Russia, you're not getting the money from IMF. So Ibrahim Traoré refused to be an object of that sort of things. Uganda, for instance, they don't get money from IMF and World Bank anymore. Up until now. Why? Because President Museveni voted a law. He accepted the law to be passed that prohibits men to other men. Now, Uganda say we can do this because it's not part of our way of thinking. Whether you like it or not, you can do it in your country. Don't bring it here. We don't want it. The community leaders, the spiritual leaders, the Muslims, the Christians, the traditional leaders came together and said, we don't want this. Therefore, we want a law. Whoever comes in our country and come and teach kids how to do that, we're not going to accept it. Those ones who teach kids how to do that are going to go to jail. Now, if you teach kids how to do that and you have that disease that doesn't have a cure and you transmit it to a kid, then they're going to... That's the law. Then America said, because you don't accept that, okay, we are not giving you any funding anymore. And because America's got so much power, they spoke to World Bank and IMF, don't send money to Uganda no more. And Uganda is not getting any money anymore. Uganda used to get money from them for people living with HIV. Yes. Funding from people with HIV. They stopped sending it. I think it's about $300 million. They stopped sending the money. Why? Because Uganda refused to live by their rules. Now, my question is simple. If you were really sending money for people living with HIV, I suppose they are civilians, not politicians. Okay, this is because you cared about these people, right? Now, if you truly cared about those people, why did you stop sending the money to these people? Because of a law that is voted by people that is not them. Why would you do that? Why would you punish somebody you care for if their leaders are not doing what you want? I mean, shouldn't you, because you have a good heart, just continue helping that little boy that you've been helping? Because does he have a say? He doesn't have. Now, Ibrahim Traoré doesn't want that. Because he didn't want that, what did he do? He asked the population to contribute from their salaries, a percentage, into a basket, starting by himself. He said, no, I don't want you to pay me as a president. I want you to pay me as a captain because I'm a soldier. Put my money, a percentage of my money, in that basket. He asked and incited everybody to put some of their money in the basket. And it's that money from the basket that they use to buy weapons, to arm their soldiers, to buy cars, to buy trucks, to buy military equipment, to give his soldiers to go fight terrorism. It's from that money from that basket that everybody's contributing, that they're building this tomato plant. It's from that money that they're building these hospitals. How can you not like somebody like this? Why can't other African president learn from this young man? I am shocked and hurt and passionate right now. And you have no idea. I could break your arm on arm wrestling right now. God bless. If you have neighbors, and among your neighbors, most are your enemies, and one is good with you, or good to you, or at least looks like he is, and all of a sudden you decide to paint your backyard color red. You only have one neighbor that comes to your house, okay? And surprisingly, as you go to the street, the child of the neighbor that doesn't like you tells your child, oh, I know, you're going red now, okay? You guys have a red backyard. We know everything. And your child comes to you and says, Daddy, the child of the neighbor told me that they know what we're up to. They know our backyard is red. What's going to go through your mind? You only have one neighbor that comes to your backyard because you trust him. Will you still trust him? Question mark. Will you still trust a neighbor that has access to your backyard? I'm trying to make sure that audio is going through. You will question the presence, right? Because that becomes a security concern. Because you know the neighbors don't like you very much. They will do anything to destroy you. You know, people are very capable of many things. Now, if you have somebody that you seemingly trust and you allow to your backyard, giving information about your personal life, isn't that a danger? That's a danger, right? Now, also people talk about democracy. They say many African countries are not democratic, okay? They have dictatorship. Are you a believer of full-fledged democracy? Or do you think there should be a level of control when it comes to democracy? I mean, you don't allow democracy in your house, right? If you got children, you allow them to be democratic or have democracy in the house, come back home when they want. That's democracy. You may have children that are older than 18 years. Would you let them come home after 11 p.m.? I mean, look, I was 18, staying at my father's house. I wasn't allowed to come after 9 p.m. because I lived in his house. You don't allow the neighbor to come and put their feet on the table. I mean, even I couldn't put the feet on the table in my own house whilst my father was in the lounge. I could allow myself to do it when daddy wasn't around, but as soon as my father was in around, we knew who the boss was. So you can't really have democracy even in your own home. People talk about freedom of speech. Do you speak to your mom anyhow? No, you don't. You have limitations. I understand it's a matter of culture, but amongst black people in general, I'm sorry to put it that way, I'm not trying to be racialist, you don't speak to your mom anyhow because they're probably going to slap your face. You know that it goes. Thank you very much for stopping by. You're appreciated. What's up, everybody? I'm Zack. Zack is my name. This is your first time. You're very welcome. We appreciate you. We want you here. Hey, we want you to stay. Click on the button, subscribe so you can see each other every single day. We come here every single day. Now, Burkina Faso has arrested French nationals in Burkina Faso accused of espionage. Yes, 2 French nationals and many other people. There was among them Burkinabe people, Senegalese and Malians accused of espionage. Now, let's focus on the French people. Who are these people? They are part of an organization named INSO, okay? And this organization worked in Burkina Faso and many other countries in Africa. They've been accused of providing sensitive information about Burkina Faso's army to foreigners. INSO stands for International NGO Safety Organization. It's obviously an NGO based in The Hague, in Netherlands. You see the Netherlands on the map, very far. And this organization provides security analysis to NGOs operating in conflict zone. So this INSO organization goes to conflict zone, especially in Africa, and provides security analysis and data to NGOs that come to operate in Africa. In other words, many NGOs come to Africa in conflict zone, providing help, quote unquote, okay? Matter of fact, they come to loot and many other things. Anyway, let's stick on track. They provide help. But this INSO organization provides them with information on how to navigate conflict zone. Now, why are they arrested? Are they legal? Yes, they are legal. Now, if they are legal, you're probably asking yourself a question to know if they are legal, why are they arrested then? Well, they've been arrested because they were told by Burkina Faso on the 21st of July to stop operations. Why? Because Burkina Faso said they were providing information that are very sensitive. Remember, this is Burkina Faso on the map. The country is going through a lot right now. There's terrorism and war happening. So when you come as an organization such as INSO and you gather information, this is basically intelligence information and military information, and you're providing to a third party, are you not putting the security of the country's army at danger? Question mark.
The investigations revealed that INSO, with the help of some of our compatriots, was able to meticulously record the routes, movements, and composition of military and supply convoys to the cities without keeping this information secret in the interest of national defense. They systematically catalog the military resources deployed to secure a given convoy. By gathering information on the number of personnel, vehicles, heavy weapons, motorcycles, etc.
They were told to stop because who are you providing the information from? Let's go back a little bit. Burkina Faso is riddled by terrorists. Where does the terrorism come from? Well, Mali has accused France of being part of the people that are financing these terrorists. Why would France do so? Well, Mali says the reason why France do so, or does so, sorry for my English, is because France wants to look like it is helpful. In other words, I'm going to create terrorism in your country, I'm going to finance them, then provide you with help. Now, if you want my help as a strong army in the world, you're going to have to pay me for that. Now, number one, you're going to pay me for that. Number two, I'm going to access your resources by being in your country and emphasize my presence. So I'm hitting three birds at the same time. Now, Burkina Faso has kicked out France out of the country. Same as Mali on the map, Niger on the map, and Burkina Faso. The three countries are now brothers. They're the only African brother country in Africa. They are the only brothers in Africa. I'm just being honest with you. Because brotherhood has nothing to do with skin color. Sorry, fellas. Let nobody lie to you. My brother, no. Brotherhood is proven. You need to prove me you're my brother. Don't tell me you're my brother. I don't know that. Your own brother from your mother's stomach doesn't call you brother, does he? He doesn't call you brother. In most cases, they don't call you brother, but they show you brotherhood through actions. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are brothers. They're the only brothers in Africa right now. Why? Because when these countries here, they call the ECOWAS are West African countries, many of them come together, lie to each other. They were just about to attack this country, Niger, because Niger changed the government without going through elections. These countries say we're going to go and start a war to reverse what you just done.
I tell you, we are ready to go anytime the order is given. The D-Day is also decided, which we are not going to disclose. There will be no more meetings of the chiefs of defense staff. If there will be, it will be probably in the course of the operation if there is the need to adjust the operation. This is the second extraordinary meeting and the final meeting before deployment.
Mali and Burkina Faso say, if you dare put your foot in Niger's soil, we are going to war.
We hereby warn that any military intervention against Niger is tantamount to a declaration of war against Burkina Faso and Mali.
That is brotherhood. Anyway, let's go back on track. Now, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso kicked out France. France is gone. France is angry. Now, Mali has accused France of sponsoring terrorists and terrorism group in the Sahel. Now, Burkina Faso is right now fighting against terrorist group. And you have an organization named INSO that is based in Hague, in Netherlands, gathering information in Burkina Faso about the military, about the formation, and sending it to third party, supposedly for NGOs. Now, let's find out who sponsors INSO. Because you got to find out, who sponsors them? Who gives them money? They must have some sort of a buyer or sponsorship. Okay, well, let's find out. You have US aid, that's America, United States of America, send them money. Your European Union, send them money. Are you telling me these companies and countries are sending money for Africans? I don't know about that. We have the United Kingdom that send money to INSO for sponsorship and finance. Why? We have the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs that also sends money to INSO as a buyer, okay, with the goal of protecting NGOs that come to Africa in conflict zone. Now, why do they do that for these NGOs? To reduce risk for humanitarian workers. So they basically give you information so your NGO employees don't get unalive in conflict zone. Number two, to improve interagency coordination. Basically, to allow NGOs operating in Africa to communicate and act with each other with no difficulty. Number three, to facilitate humanitarian access in high-risk zones. Now, I don't know why Europeans feel like they need to help Africans in their problems. How about not creating problems in the first place, and let Africans deal with things? I know Africans have their own part, their own role to play, because we're not innocent. We could do so much more into helping each other, into supporting one another, like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are doing. They now have one army. You know that? Yeah. In the borders, they're fighting terrorists through the borders. If the terrorists cross on this side, they beat him. If you go down, why can't Africans do the same? Some people have spoken about Africa having one army. How about that? I know a lot of people don't like that, okay, because they feel like, my country, I can't have those people in my country. No, we do understand some people do bad things in their countries. We know some people from some side of Africa, they do drugs and human trafficking and stuff. How about we put them in jail? Or let's exclude them and include everybody else. How about that? We're going to stop everybody else from moving forward because a bunch of people don't want to think like everybody else because they think they're superior or they think they want to do drugs and stuff. Africa has to move forward. Europeans are working together. Okay, America is not one country. It's many little small countries coming together. That's why it's so powerful. And the only reason why we need to come together is because we have to come together. Because trust me, the government of America right now is trying to show everybody that they control the world. And whether you like it or not, nobody's favorite to these countries. Unless you bow down to them. Unless you accept refugees that are sent out. These people that they're kicking out of the United States of America. If you accept them, all these criminals in your country, then they see you at the good light. Or you pay money like Kenya is paying $179,000 to one person. $179,000 is being paid to one person in the United States of America to lobby for Kenya. One person is receiving $179,000 to lobby for Kenya. Meanwhile, in Kenya, many doctors have no good salaries. They've been marching in the street asking for help. But they're paying $179,000 for America so that the United States of America can see them in a good light. This man right here is getting $179,000. Why? Because you need American support. How about you support each other as brothers so you can move forward? Do you think Burkina Faso has done wrong by arresting these people who have been operating illegally in the country after they were told in July to stop operations? They were told not to do these reconnaissances, gathering all these sensitive informations anymore because the country is at war. They continued, okay, in spite of those advertisements. Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. Africa have to move forward. Okay, we need to love each other and accept one another. We need to stop pointing fingers at each other. If we have a bunch of people that are behaving badly, misbehaving, put them to the side. We don't need them. They can go create their own country by themselves or create their own community. For the rest of the good Africans, we need to come together, whether it's Africans or our brothers from all over the world. God bless. My brother, South Africa, South Africa, very interesting country. South Africa is called the Rainbow Nation. Why rainbow? You see the rainbow? Put a picture of a rainbow here. You see what a rainbow looks like? Put actually a video of a rainbow. Video of a rainbow. See the rainbow? Very colorful. Green, blue, yellow and stuff. Why is it called the Rainbow Nation? Because there are diverse people in South Africa. Indians, white people, black people, colored people. Colored people are not black. Okay. They brownish looking. In most cases, some of them are black, but yeah, anyway, it's not about the skin color. It's more about the culture. So there are different types. There are also Chinese people in South Africa. So it's called the Rainbow Nation. And it is supposed to be a country that supports and accept each other, because through apartheid and all the stuff that's happened in the past, people have moved forward, okay? So you can all live in peace, even though many people don't think it's true. It is just a lie because the reality is very different. You rarely see white people marrying black people. No, black people want to be married to white people. Indians too want to marry white, but white people are not very much interested. Or you find an Indian with a white person, but you rarely find an Indian with a black person. Anyway, that's not the point. So there's a very interesting video that you found. I believe that sometimes people change, and I also believe that sometimes people don't change. An enemy of the past is probably an enemy of the future. Probably. An enemy of the past is probably an enemy of the future. So even though many people may have changed, many people have not changed. And I think we need to watch this. Let's go.
Watch this video and then tell me we don't have a problem. South Africans, you are not angry enough.
Speaking to anti-Slim. Anti-Slim.
Let me stop right there. This looks to me like a TikTok live, right? Where people are discussing about political things. And it is South Africa. Let's go.
The solution is to end the pollution. That's the solution. Okay, how? Simply by unifying, no more jokes, simply by unifying white people around a political will. That political will would consist of expressing publicly that we want to have our own country back. That's where it starts. It's an incremental thing. We all know how it ends.
How does it end?
It ends with us mobilizing people behind that political will.
Okay, so your political will is to start a country. Where would this country be?
In South Africa. Are you saying? Are you trying to make the argument that South Africa does not belong to the white man?
I'm asking merely where this country will be.
Well, it's very simple.
Well, if you want a better description, it seems you have no imagination or comprehension.
Okay. Well, don't spell it out to me then, but we all know what you mean. Waar in Suid-Afrika sal hierdie volksstaat wees? Is it die hele Suid-Afrika?
The whole South Africa, yes.
Bly dit Suidwes in?
I think eventually we should claim all the way to Egypt.
Okay. Mag ek vra hoekom? Hoekom wil jy die hele Afrika oorneem?
Because races are competing against each other, and it's only natural for me to want my race to win as much as possible. Same way one would want one's own home team to win as many matches as possible.
I'm sorry, you guys are racist. That's pretty fucking despicable.
Yes, we are racist. Yes, we are. And see, we find people who are not racist quite despicable. So you see, we all have opinions.
One of the people on the lives has almost 15,000 followers. Just come listen to this.
Welcome. Today we are at the Hartbeespoortdam in the Transvaal province. Now, it is often said that South Africa was built on the backs of black labor. And we are here to challenge this false narrative today and to show you the magnificence of European architecture and infrastructure.
I like it when you... let's try that again. I like it when you provoke the natives. Let's watch. You will watch. You'll continue to watch. You'll probably die of old age before you do something. Nothing will happen because, you see, you are a coward. You'll never commit to an armed struggle as you threaten us with, because you and your kind are cowards that will only commit these heinous acts against defenseless women and children or elderly people that are isolated. But you see, if by some miracle you do muster the courage or the logistic capability of doing something like that, oh man, let's just say there are many, many white men that are dreaming and yearning for that day. So go ahead, make our day. Freedom for the white man.
I'm so done being nice. I am actually shaking the way I'm angry. I'm just gonna say it like it is. Where is your rage? Where is your anger? Why are people not having these conversations? Why is it that so many people are focused on everything that's not important except these conversations? Why has nobody done anything about this? How is it that this man already has been able to accumulate such a large platform? These people feel so comfortable because you do nothing. They could go on a live and show the world how free they are to say these things. Wait.
You say they do nothing, but they do something to dudula foreigners. That's something, okay? You can't say they do nothing, okay? As much as they chase illegal black foreigners from hospitals, okay? So that's something, right? Okay, let's continue.
Literally called for segregation, another apartheid system on their live. Listen carefully. And they did it on a live, so comfortable, knowing that you would do nothing. Because you do nothing. You support content creators that send our women off to Russia to be trafficked, but you don't support the creators and people trying to make a difference. You do nothing. You can't even do the bare minimum of getting the message out there. Don't you ever tell me it's not about race. Don't you ever tell me this conversation is not important. Don't you ever tell me we don't have a problem in this country. Do you think that the situation in Gaza happened overnight? Do you think that war started overnight? It starts here with these people calling for action to create a new dreamland for these racists. They are building division. Go and watch that man's platform and look at his videos, and then you tell me we don't have a problem. I'm telling you, we cannot have this tolerated. We have laws against this kind of hate speech. This is more than inciting violence. This is despicable. And if you do nothing, you are equally as despicable. You are the problem. And I'm talking to you, white South Africans as well, the ones that claim to be allies, the ones that claim to want unity, the ones that claim that there is no problem. If you turn a blind eye just because these people are white, you are part of the problem. And you disgusting, filthy racist, how dare you? You have so much audacity even thinking you can be racist, because when apartheid ended, people of color didn't ask for any repercussions. You had the TRC. That was it. There were no repercussions. We didn't take the land back. We actually have a white genocide that y'all claim exists in South Africa. We didn't do any of that. No. You just got a slap on the wrist, stand in front of the TRC and just apologize. Just tell your truth and be sorry so that we can move forward together. But no, I argue that may have been a problem, because when apartheid ended, you felt like the victim. You felt like, oh, now I have to live with black people, people of color. Now I have to live with them. You felt like the tragedy fell on you. You felt like you were the ones that wrong was done to. And the problem with people like you is that you come from family members that were never sorry, that felt like a harm was done to them when apartheid ended, that long for the days of apartheid. And if we as South Africans don't hold these people accountable, this infection will continue to spread.
Did he say you and your kinds are coward? You would never do anything. Even if one day you get the logistics and the courage to do anything, there are many people of my kind that are just waiting for that opportunity. Interesting. What we need to say as well, I think there was another man in there that called them racist. Another man who was a white man. He said, you are actually racist, right? And they said to him, we are also thinking that people like you are despicable. So people that are not racist, white men that are not racist, are despicable. That's what he said. So this is now the word to say to you that not all white South Africans think this way, as much as not all black South Africans. Let me know how you feel about this. This is just crazy. I don't know what to say. Africa has to come together or not. God bless.